Hello and welcome into the Take the North podcast along with Dan Wiederer of The Athletic. I am Mark Grote of Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score, maybe the biggest regular season game of consequence, Dan, since all the games that happened in the year 2018. What's going on, man?
So what you're telling our audience is this is the biggest game in the history of TTN. That's what you're telling our
Ooh,
audience right here.
that's what it in turn that would be. And yet another milestone for us, right? A big game, a 10-game losing streak last year. I mean, it's always something, isn't it, Dan? Always something.
It sure is, and this is I'm excited for this particular episode of the podcast because this is a game that the Bears can absolutely compete in. And I think if you had told us that at the end of August, we would have said, I don't know, I need to see more. Well, now you've got 2 8-3 football teams, both with flaws, and the Bears have a chance to really walk into a measuring stick moment on Friday in Philadelphia and come out with a better understanding of who they are.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. These are both teams with flaws. I think if we're being honest with ourselves, yeah, Philadelphia's a better team on the overall. Philadelphia has a better roster. They have probably better overall individual players, but this is a Philadelphia team that is coming off blowing a 21-point lead against the Dallas Cowboys, and they haven't really been blowing anybody out. And their offense is, while potent, and like I said, has excellent individual players, Dan. Those individual players, for the most part, except for maybe Devontae Smith, all the familiar names that you know, the Jalen Hurtses of the world, Saquon Barkley's, A.J. Brown, these guys are underperforming relative to their usual levels.
Yeah, and Devontae Smith, by the way, on the injury report for Philly, dealing with a couple of different injuries, and so his status for Friday questionable at this point. And so, I mean, there's a lot baked into this game on Friday, and I think we're both really eager to watch the Bears play a big stakes game.
Yeah, no doubt. Before we get into the Bears injuries, since you mentioned Devontae Smith and didn't practice at all this week, shoulder and chest, Saquon Barkley has been limited. And look, Barkley is 684 yards this year. The key number, though, for Barkley, 3.7 yards per carry, just the 4 touchdowns this year. He has, relative to the 2,000-yard year last year, he's not been the same. That doesn't mean you don't respect that man every time he touches the ball. As a matter of fact, that's part of why he has not rushed well this year. People respect Saquon Barkley, and they don't want any part of what he did last year. But here is what's going on with the Bears and the injury report. And the did not practice guys are the following. So this is Wednesday as we're recording this. The official designations come out on Thursday, but not practicing on Wednesday and all these guys that I'm going to give did not practice either on Tuesday, the only other practice this week for the Bears. But TJ Edwards, Ruben Hippolyte, Luke Newman, Dominique Robinson, Noah Sewell, and Tyreek Stevenson did not practice. Gervon Dexter limited in practice. He has a hand injury that popped up, so he went but did not go hard. Full practices: Theo Benedette, Kyler Gordon, Travis Homer, Jaylon Johnson, Kyle Monungai. And Dan, I think that there's a lot of stuff to break down on this injury report, but I think the thing that is most interesting is, it's been a full week of practices for Kyler Gordon and Jaylon Johnson, which seems to suggest that both, and at the very least one of them, could be back in this game Friday against the Eagles.
These fingers that I threw up here for our video audience was the linebacker count of the names that you read on the DNP list for the Bears injury report. That's a 3 for those listening on audio. 3 linebackers, not including Tremaine Edmonds, who was moved to injured reserve over the weekend. We'll get to more of that in a second. Looking at the potential return of Jaylon Johnson and Kyler Gordon, you have a situation where the Bears are hoping to get closer to whole in the secondary, which would be great news as they head toward the month of December. I did ask Ben Johnson on Wednesday morning what his philosophy was in terms of using a pitch count for guys like this that haven't played a lot of football over the last 4 or 5 months. He indicated that he's all in favor for that in principle, right? Like that they will use, the measures that they need to, as a guide to make sure that they're being cautious and practical with the return to action of both of those players. And so it'll be very interesting to see if they come up with some sort of a pitch count, 2 a rotation that allows these guys to get back in the mix without overstraining them. in their first game back. You mentioned Tyreek Stevenson on that list. His hip injury, 2 DNPs so far this week, leads you to believe that he might miss Friday's game, which then shakes that up again, and then you've got to figure out what you're doing in the secondary based on who you have and who you don't have. I think we're all sort of eager to see what this defense looks like as it starts to get some of these key pieces back in the machine. And obviously Jaylon and Kyler qualify on that category.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And so we don't know, as we are recording this right now, if it is 100% that Jaylon and Kyler would play, but it was very interesting at Haugh on Wednesday. CJ Gardner-Johnson had a little something to say about Jaylon. I got to be honest with you, I have not heard this yet, but I have been told that we should play this, Dan, and discuss it as a podcast because CJ Gardner-Johnson was talking with our very own, the Score's very own Chris Emma about Jaylon Johnson, and he may have just told us the status of Jaylon Johnson, from what I understand. Let us all take a listen to this.
One of the best corners in the league. I just feel like now he probably get a chance to actually show that. He's been being active this week.
Wow. Hey, can you play that one more time? Play that. I wasn't ready for it to be that. I wasn't ready for it to be that short. Give me a solid.
Corners in the league. I just feel like now he probably get a chance to actually show that. He's been being active this week.
Very excitable in that locker room. So if you couldn't hear it, he's one of the best corners in the league. Now he gets a chance to show that. CJ Gardner-Johnson.
He said with him being active this week, which is a little bit of a tell on where they might be headed with that decision for the roster on Friday. I think one of those voices you heard in that raucous clip there was Caleb Williams, who was involved in. They were doing a little around the world on the basketball hoop with two-man teams there for a little while. Grote, you know the scene in that locker room.
Oh yeah,
so they were going opposite ways around the world at the same time, and so it was getting lively in there on the hoop, and that was basically interrupting some of what CJ Gardner had to say in that clip, which is why you heard all that noise. But to the topic at hand, again, this is a big game, right? And so if you can have some of your big time playmakers available to you, you certainly wrap your arms around that possibility. I think we're all eager to see what does Jaylon Johnson look like when he gets back in the mix here. Again, hadn't played a lot of football, didn't play at all during training camp, got back for a very short time, left in his first game back at Detroit in week 2. Big deal to see what he can be, not only Friday, but for the rest of the season for this Bears defense.
All right, here's another one for you that I want to kick around a little bit because, as I mentioned in the injury report, Theo Benedette looks like he is back and should be good to go. One would suspect. Like I said, we got to wait till Thursday before we get the actual designations. Ozzie Trapillo stepped in last week, did a really good job. He's been doing a really good job as a sixth offensive lineman, which the Bears have used often. Is there any chance here that Ozzie gets a crack at that left tackle spot, or is Benedette just get plugged right back in, you think?
There is a strong chance, Mark. Patrick Finley of the Sun-Times asked Ben Johnson directly today, when Theo is fully healthy, is he your starter at left tackle? Ben's response with a sly smile was, "We'll see." Which led you to believe that they could keep rolling with Ozzie Trapillo off an encouraging effort against the Steelers. I followed up asking Ben about how he can explain the idea that Ozzie Trapillo, who looked so uncomfortable on the left side during camp and was ultimately bumped over to the right side, went out and played that type of football game and clearly showed that he's made growth with his performance, with what he did against the Steelers. Here's what Ben had to say about where Ozzie is in his growth curve as a rookie here late in his rookie season.
I don't know what it was over probably like the last 4 weeks or so, but it's almost like things have slowed down for him. And I feel it around the building, not even on the practice field as much. I feel it in the building with him where there's a little less, stepping on eggshells. And it's like he's coming out of his shell a little bit. And he, he's not a rookie anymore as far as I'm concerned. It kind of feels that way just being around him personality-wise. And when that opens up, I think your play, you just kind of cut it loose and you play ball. And so I felt that from him. And I don't know why that is the case or anything like that. But, he's been, I'm not saying a different guy, but it's like, okay, he knows he belongs. He knows he belongs. I think he's got confidence and doesn't really matter right side or left side. I think he knows he can be a very productive player at this level.
Great. Ben does not stand up at that lectern and gas guys up for no reason. He's usually pretty sincere, and that was as genuine as you're going to get from the head coach in terms of the encouraged praise for where Ozzy's gotten himself to. I thought him expressing that he knows he belongs is a big deal in the process of a young player trying to get his feet under him and trying to understand that, yeah, I can play on this level, and to pass a test like he did last week against Pittsburgh, against TJ Watt, against some of those other werewolves that he had to go up against. It gives you some encouragement that you've got a guy there that is molding into what you thought he could become when you drafted him. And so it's very possible that he goes into Lincoln Financial Field on Friday and he's your starter at left tackle.
I mean, that's amazing, really, because and you're right. It's so key that what he was saying right there, that he belongs, because clearly that probably was not something they were feeling in training camp when Trapillo was, you know what, you sir are out of this competition, right? And then it's Braxton Jones versus the undrafted Theo Benedett from last year, all of which I thought was a little bit wild at the time, but now you see that they just needed to kind of reboot him, it sounded like, and develop him.
Right.
Yeah. What a concept.
What a concept, honestly. And it's a credit to Dan Rochar, who I know you've enjoyed getting to know. It's just a guy that is very to the point with his players about what they're good at and what they're not good at. And I think guys respond to that. Ozzy obviously has. They saw a guy in the summer who was more reactionary than assertive. And now it seems to be flipping in the other direction, where they understand that they can give him a role and trust him to go attack and go do his thing in the way that he knows how. Very, very encouraging on that front, if that indeed becomes something that becomes an answer for you, right? Like, you don't want to walk in to the winter of 2025-26 with left tackle at the top of your shopping list. If you have a guy in house that can knock that role down, holy cow, that's an advantage as you go through the roster building process here in this next cycle.
Yeah, I mean, it's just another star in favor of Ben Johnson, and just we're hearing things that we haven't seen at Hallis Hall and at Soldier Field and wherever the Bears are in a long time, and it's just completely heartening. Another thing we need to get to here. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, well, I just want to say, were you going to go to the linebackers next? Because I wanted to go there really quick. Okay, sorry to interrupt you. You go there, and I'll follow.
Well, it's it's another week where you're probably not going to have your three starting linebackers. At least it's looking like that. But I'm really kind of interested to see one more week of the trio of linebackers of Imagn, Ogbongbemiga, and DeMarco Jackson, seeing if these guys can pull it out. And again, they ain't going to be they're not Wally Pippin anybody, that's for sure. But just to know that you have that depth and that prowess and that sort of depth again in the linebacking core is good. But man, at some point in time, got to see DJ back on the field, or TJ.
Yeah, TJ. And look, like Carl Jones is going to have to be active for this game. I would imagine Jalen Reeves-Maybin might be in line to be active for this game, because you just need the depth at the linebacker position. You were in that locker room at Soldier Field on Sunday afternoon, and it was almost like, this is how I would describe it. It was like there was such a sigh of relief and a celebration for how well DeMarco Jackson and Imagn Ogbongbemiga had played in that game against Pittsburgh, where it was like, oh man, they dodged a bullet. They were without their top three linebackers, and they dodged a bullet today. And so you feel this like sense of satisfaction and this full blown relief, which I'm sure you sensed inside that locker room for what those guys were able to accomplish Sunday. And then you turn over your shoulder and you're like, holy cow, there's more bullets coming, right? Like, it's Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley this week. It's not Mason Rudolph and Jalen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell. And so there's no time on a short week to just sort of be like, oh man, that was great. It was like, okay, it was great, pats on the back, but now get ready to go stop the Eagles, and so it's really, I think, as slow as Saquon Barkley has been to match what he did in 2024, this is still a huge challenge, and the Bears linebacking core is still depleted. And so we would not be shocked if we're sitting here Friday night going, man, they just weren't able to hold up 2 weeks in a row without all those pieces. Huge test coming for this defense and that position group in particular.
Yeah, and I think that's fair that you pointed that out, because everything seems to be with Saquon Barkley seems to be relative to 2,000 yards. I mean, it's not like he isn't on trajectory for 1,000-yard season again this year.
Sure, and look, like they just haven't been the same offense, but he's still dangerous, and you're shorthanded, like you're shorthanded. There's no way around it, and so those guys will prepare themselves. They'll get ready to go play on Friday. But it's just another reminder. This league is very cruel, and it's what have you done for me lately? And so Sunday's it's a distant memory for the Bears linebackers as well as they played because there's a big challenge coming up Friday in Philly.
All right, before we get to our game spotlight, let's bring in the executive producer of the Take the North podcast. He is Adam Studzinski. He had posed something to us a little bit earlier in our individual little three-way chat that we like to do, and it revolves around some of the other teams in the mighty NFC North. What up, Studs?
Hey, what's up, guys? How we doing today? Good, bad? Great. All right, good. So I'll just go ahead. I'll just go ahead and explain what this was because there's been something that's been being tracked by Bears and Eagles fans online that everyone kind of realized a couple months ago, I believe, when they saw that hey, the Bears play every team in the NFC East this year. The Eagles play every team in the NFC North this year. Those divisions all playing each other this year, right? So Bears and Eagles fans were like, hey, if the Eagles can beat all the other teams in the NFC North and the Bears can beat all the other teams in the NFC East, that kind of works really nice for everybody. And so the fans have been rooting for each other's teams for the last few months. And lo and behold, this is exactly what happened. And now that the teams have to play each other, the alliance has ended. So it's a nice little 2-month alliance that they had that has been forced to come to an end. But it was just a fun little thing that had been happening, on Bears Eagles Twitter the last couple of months. That was fun to be a part of a little bit. But now it's like, hey, well, now we got to fight.
Yeah, the Bears in sequential order took out the Cowboys, the Commanders, then the Giants. I don't know what order that the Eagles went in to take out the Lions, the Packers, and the Vikings, but it is pretty cool when you have that sort of showdown where they basically caused chaos in each other's division, and now they've got to go play each other, and we'll see who ultimately is able to conquer the entirety of the other division, right? Like that's a big accomplishment when you're able to conquer the entirety of the other division.
Do you guys realize and I still think this is crazy. The Bears have not beaten the Eagles since 2011. Yeah. 2011 was the last time. That's Jake. We're talking Jay Cutler and
before
Matt
me
Forte.
On the beat.
Yeah, that predates you. Yeah, no doubt. But there's been some nightmare moments for the Bears and the Eagles.
And particularly there in Philly. Like there's been some ugly games out there at the Link.
Dude, yeah, regular season games, and then obviously 2 really horrible, historically anyway, playoff games against the Eagles. I know. Well, there was one. Well, really quick, we know the double doink. We know the Hugh Douglas game back in 2001. The good one, I guess, would be the fog ball. How could I forget the fog ball? That's a win over Randall Cunningham, Buddy Ryan's Eagles.
So they say. No one ever saw it, but apparently, yes. Apparently, the Bears won that game.
Yeah, that was a ridiculous game in every way, shape, or form. I was not covering them, believe it. One point in time, I was a child, and I was watching it. All right, let's get into our game spotlight. And speaking of reminiscing, oh my God, man, things have changed. Things are a little bit different now on this Black Friday than they were last year on Black Friday for these Chicago Bears. Dan, I will never forget the Thanksgiving Day last year, you and I walking out after doing our work at Ford Field about an hour after, a couple hours after getting ready to record the podcast. And we just looked at each other, didn't really say a word. We're just shaking our heads like, wow, what the hell? What did we just see? And of course, that was the timeout breakdown with Matt Eberflus at the end of the Detroit game that led to his firing.
Just an absolute short-circuiting by the Bears at Ford Field with Eberflus leaving his final timeout of his head coaching career in his back pocket as Caleb Williams short-circuited on the field and couldn't get the last play off in any sort of timely manner and threw a desperation heave to Rome that fell short and the Bears lost. And so I thought our game spotlight this week was appropriate to revisit 52 weeks ago. Black Friday 2024 versus Black Friday 2025. Grote, I said on 670 The Score on Wednesday morning that I wish I could have taken Take the Norse trademarked cold tub time machine from today back to Thursday night of Thanksgiving weekend of 2024 and stopped into my hotel room in Taylor, Michigan, and given myself some guidance and a letter and encouragement. And like 365 days from now, it's going to be markedly different, because I'll tell you this, and this will be, I'll share this on a personal level, and then we'll take it more macro as it relates to the Bears. But, you know, like we knew when we walked out of Ford Field last year that Matt Eberflus was fired. It was only a matter of time. My phone is blowing up on that night of the game from people around the league, some saying, is he gone? And others saying, there's no way he's not gone, you know, and you just knew what you were facing. Number one, you know, your Thanksgiving weekend is ruined. And so you're like, okay, I'm going to spend the entire week trying to get my arms around what exactly happened and where they go next. But then there was also this moment, Grote, where like, you know, we had Thanksgiving dinner together at 11 in the morning.
We did.
Field. It was pleasant.
Lovely.
But as lovely as it was, I was away from my family and I wasn't at home for Thanksgiving. And so you're sitting there in your hotel room in depressing Taylor, Michigan, and going, what kind of life is this? Like, why am I giving up? Why am I giving up so much of my personal life and my family time to go follow this absolutely horrible football franchise around the country through all these disgusting losses? And you're just sitting there like, you're like, I don't know. Is it ever going to get better? Like, is it ever going to get better? Or am I just going to be constantly following a last place team through 17 games of every season for the rest of my career?
I remember you contemplating that. I remember.
It's a dark place to be at. Right.
Yeah.
And so then you and I think you were hosting the following day on The Score, and I remember coming on with you there to try to unpack what had happened on Friday morning with Matt Eberflus's embarrassing Zoom call with the media just, you know, minutes before he went down the hall and got fired, you know, by his bosses at House Hall. And you're just sitting there and you're thinking to yourself, the Bears are an absolute embarrassment, right? Like that was the sentiment on Black Friday 2024. And here we are on Black Friday 2025, and you're going, the Bears are the surprise story of the NFL. They've got a head coach who might just be a superstar. They've got a team that's mustering up belief. And so this complete sort of 180 that they've turned in 365 days is unbelievable. You know, last Black Friday, we're sitting there staring at this embarrassment. This Black Friday, we're going to be watching 2 8-3 football teams play for a national audience with a high seed in the NFC playoffs on the line. And it's incredible. It's a life comes at you fast league, but it's incredible how marked this turnaround has been for the Bears in 52 weeks.
And what it's done too, with the Bears being 8-3 as we speak here on the Take the North podcast, the season, as I said on The Score the other day, it's like the season has turned into, why not? Why not win the division? Why not win a playoff game? And I know we're going to look very carried away, but hey, if there's people out there who are like, why not go to the Super Bowl? You know what I mean? And there are teams that are better than the Bears still in the NFC. The Rams are better than the Bears. Eagles are probably better than the Bears, like pound for pound. But we've gone into this area where everything is just cake, everything is gravy, and everything that the Bears are doing right now is, why not?
There's no question. And I think that's a great way to frame it, Grote, because I will remind people there are 5.5 months from the night the Super Bowl ends to the time that teams report to training camp. And so that's a lot of time to do big picture contemplation and figure out how good your team is for the long-term future. We'll have those 5.5 months to do that. We don't have to do that right now. You can live in the now with this Bears team, with this run of 8 wins in 9 games. You can live in the present and understand that there's some really good things happening and taking root inside this building, and you can enjoy that without having to fret and create anxiety over what might not be there for your hopes of winning a Super Bowl one day up the road. Why not just live in the now? Why not try to squeeze the maximum that you can out of this 2025 season? And you know, there's 6 games left, and then ideally a playoff game or 2 to test who you really are. This is fun. And this is, again, when you remind yourself of where we were a year ago and trying to figure out, okay, now what? So, but wait, Thomas Brown was just promoted from pass game coordinator, offense coordinator. Now he's your interim coach. What the hell's going on? It's a totally different scene right now. You're going to play a bright lights, big stage game on Friday against the reigning Super Bowl champions in a game that means a lot. That's fun. why not go win that game, and why not just stay in the now and enjoy where you are right now?
Isn't it living in the known though? Actually, it's not the now. It's the
That's a
known.
different path, but you can do both, right? You can do
Yeah,
both.
Antoine Randall L just texted me, said it's live in the known. Tell Wiederer it's not the now. So,
either or. Pool pond.
Dan, let me ask you a question. This is a really important question. Are you ready for 3 things to watch? Are
Yes,
you
sir.
ready for it?
Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dan Wiederer has 3 things for you to watch in this Bears-Eagles game on Friday.
Are you surprised that I am starting with our old friend Vic Fangio? And I'm starting there because Vic Fangio is he's a mastermind in this league.
Yep.
He's a brilliant defensive strategist, a brilliant defensive coordinator. And whereas I originally would have liked to have framed this as a Vic versus Ben storyline, I'm going to frame it instead as a Vic versus Caleb storyline, because I do think that the Bears now have a guy on their coaching staff that can match wits with a guy like Vic Fangio. I think Ben Johnson is that gifted. And so now it's all about whether Caleb Williams can apply the solutions and the answers in the game plan that Ben Johnson gives him in real time against a really difficult defense to play against. Vic Fangio, we know what he likes to do. We heard a lot from people inside this building this week with their acknowledgement of what Vic likes to do and how they're going to have to be tested. And so let's start first. We'll start with Declan Doyle offering us his insight into Vic's signature on the Eagles defense, and then we'll transition after that into Ben Johnson.
Cool.
Vic has done a great job just over the years. I mean, he's really changed the way teams play defense. You've seen a lot of teams structure kind of the way they're built off of how he's built his defenses in the past. It's principled. They do a really good job of understanding, what their scheme, where the issues are, how they use their players is really advantageous to them. They do a good job of holding the shell and trying to disguise and make things cloudy on the quarterback. And so the main thing is really it's still about us. It's still about his process and being able to, see the defense and make sure that his post-snap picture is either the same as what he saw pre-snap or very quickly transition into, hey, I need to move on or move my eyes or my feet somewhere else.
How have teams, you said teams kind of built their teams the way they're in the mold of Vic's defense?
Yeah.
Okay,
so really when you look at the defense overall, just as a principle, they do a really good job of keeping a shell over you. They force you to try to run the ball, and their whole goal is to eliminate explosives. And, our goal offensively when we go in is really to be explosive. And so they've kind of modeled their defense to be the antithesis of, what we're trying to get done. And so you've seen teams take that approach and play, what would appear to be maybe a softer zone pre-snap, and then they're able to rock and roll and create different spacing post-snap. And so you've seen that kind of trickle, throughout the league. And really, there are elements of it really in just about everybody we play.
Good insight there, Grote, from Declan Doyle. We'll transition immediately to Ben Johnson on Wednesday with his sentiments on Vic Fangio.
Yeah, it's I mean, he does a great job. It all looks the same for the most part, pre-snap, and then post-snap you try to get your confirmation on what those coverages are. And so he's got to make sure he maintains discipline with his eyes, maintain discipline with what he sees post-snap. Our route runners got to be very detailed and disciplined in how they're doing things, making sure we're at the right depths and recognizing whether it's, is it quarters, is it cloud, is it single high? It all changes on the snap. And when you have elements of our offense that we are reading the coverage with our routes, I think, it's a challenge to make sure everything's on the same page in the passing game. I think they do a great job making it muddy. They really do. And I think that's part of the beauty behind what they do.
Well, Dan, that's the part that scares me this week, because we talk about Ben Johnson versus Vic Fangio. What it really turns into, though, for me, is Vic Fangio versus Caleb Williams and all those changes at the snap that he just mentioned. We know, like, disguise should be on the Wikipedia page for Vic Fangio because he does it better than anybody. Cloudy on the QB and everything that he is talking about. That that concerns me more than anything when it comes to Vic Fangio.
Yeah, and Caleb's patience is going to be tested trying to figure that out on the fly and trying to go where he needs to go with the football. Ben Johnson also said on Wednesday he called Vic Fangio the Godfather, and he's not the first one. He's not the first one to do so. I had a fun story back in 2018. I think it was going into the Rams game, or maybe it was coming out of the Rams game, where Aaron Lynch, you remember good old Aaron Lynch here in this Bears locker room, he referred to Vic as a mother bleeping mob boss, and then he called him the Godfather also. And so Vic used to have a post game tradition for home games at Soldier Field where he always told you, if they won, he just felt relief. He never felt joy. He just felt relief. And he would go to Maria's Bakery in Highwood. He would go get a bowl of takeout rigatoni and meatballs, and he'd come right back to this building here at 1920 Football Drive, and he'd start grinding tape, and so you just have this picture of Vic in his sweatsuit with his rigatoni and meatballs, just going after the tape and trying to find more answers to take apart the next defense. And so, yeah, he is the Godfather. It'd be really good to see him on Friday and to see what this matchup looks like against the Bears.
Aaron Lynch, man, what an interesting character that guy was, by the way.
Live wire.
All right, write that down for the off season. I love how we work up off season stuff. The Aaron Lynch podcast. Notre Damer, right? Wasn't he a Notre Damer?
Yeah, I don't. For some reason, I feel like he was at Notre Dame for a period, but not the entirety of his college.
Not the entirety.
Studs can look that up and let us know if we're right on that.
All right, man. Moving on.
Second thing to watch in this football game: Jaylon Carter versus Darnell Wright. And now, before you jump out of your chair and say, "Well, they're not going to be up against each other," I know, I'm aware of that. Jaylon Carter plays on the interior of the Eagles' defensive line, and Darnell Wright is out at right tackle. That said, they were picked with back-to-back selections in the 2023 NFL Draft, and the Bears chose to pass on Jaylon Carter to unite with Darnell Wright. And so their impact in this football game on Friday is significant in my mind. Their impact on their football teams for the remainder of their careers is significant in my mind. Jaylon Carter, Grote, as you know, was already the fuel for a Super Bowl run for the Eagles last season. And so he's already got a pretty good head start in terms of what he's meant to that organization versus what Darnell has meant to the Bears. I've long said that for this move to work out in the Bears' favor, Darnell Wright needs to be a high-level starting tackle for you into the 2030s. I still believe that. It starts Friday with showing that you can impact the football game just as much as that guy a few feet down from you on the interior of the Eagles' defensive line can impact the football game. I'll turn it over to you, and then we got a little bit of audio from Ben on what he sees in Jaylon Carter.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just so important that Darnell Wright be good. I think you said that, and he has turned into an ascending player. That's what he is under this coaching staff. You mentioned Dan Rochar and the challenges that they presented him. But yeah, Jalen, we talked to a Philly guy on the Score today, and I asked him about Jaylon Carter, and he said the whole defense starts with Jaylon Carter. So I guess you could say it's worst case scenario for the Bears because this guy is good. But I gotta admit, at the time, I think I was okay with the explanation that we were given, and the Bears did need defense or offensive line too.
Yeah, the explanation we were given is that there were concerns, right? Like that this team was not ready for a personality like that, for a character concern that they identified, and that they didn't know if they could get the most out of him. But obviously Philadelphia surrounded him, and by surrounding him with not only people that he was familiar with, but good talent, it's impossible to spend an entire day double teaming Jaylon Carter because there's too many other guys on that Eagles front that can hurt you. And so the Bears have to be aware of that. I did ask Ben Johnson on Wednesday what impressed him the most when he turns on the tape and watches Jaylon Carter. Here's what he had to say.
Yeah, I mean, he's a twitchy guy, violent player, just very difficult to block one-on-one. And then he finds a way to split double teams as well. So you can see a number of teams this year on tape, they try to get him on these backside combinations or even front side on the deuce blocks, and yet he finds a way to split in between those guys. And so it's really impressive. Plays hard. I mean, you see him all over the tape, even on these plays that most defenses take off, like the offense clocking it in the 2-minute drill. He's over here trying to dive between the center's legs and get an interception. And so we're going to be mindful of where he's at.
Twitchy and violent.
He's a twitchy guy. He's a twitchy guy.
Yeah, he does explode though, man. He is. I got to admit. I mean, he's fun to watch, and yeah, he's coming at it from the interior. And there just ain't a lot of those guys throughout NFL history on the interior that can dominate. There's plenty, but that can dominate like that and get attention like that.
Well, and in the season opener, Dak Prescott found a way to get Jalen Carter to spit at him, which got him thrown out of the game before there was even a snap taken. So maybe the Bears can figure out a way to push those buttons before the first offensive series. But it'll be fascinating to see if he wrecks the game or if the Bears find answers for him, and whether Darnell, in his role, can have a big impact as well.
Was that number 2?
That was number 2. Number 3,
That's
we cannot talk about a Philadelphia Eagles matchup without mentioning the tush push. And so we can get through this quickly. We know what the tush push is. We know that back in the spring, NFL owners were pushing hard to get this play prohibited for a variety of reasons. They took a vote. They were at a strong push to get this thrown out, and I think it was a 22-10 vote to get it thrown out, but they needed 24, and they didn't get all the way there. And so the tush push is still around. Jalen Hurts, since 2022, has 33 one-yard touchdown runs for the Eagles. This season, the Eagles have converted 13 third or fourth downs of 2 yards or less. We know this is an issue. We know the Bears are going to have to stop it. To their credit, they did stop a tush push on 4th and short against the Steelers last week, which is a good piece of practice and a good confidence builder for them. But we know at some point on Friday, no matter how much Ben Johnson doesn't like the tush push as an offensive genius, his defense is going to have to try to stop it a couple times on Friday. We'll see what they're able to come up with.
Yeah, he can't be in denial about that. I mean, if he doesn't want to coach it, let somebody else, obviously. Somebody else be involved in it. He could just sit this one out if he wants to.
Yeah.
Good stuff, Dan. Great stuff as always on your 3 Things to Watch signature segment right here on the Take the North podcast. I think it's time to make some predictions here, and specifically our best bet segment. The best bet segment is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. And I'm not even sure if Mr. Studzinski will be joining us for this. Yes, he is. Hello, Adam, you're back. That's good, because I think that you probably have a great question for us here in our best bet segment, don't you?
Right. Yeah. This is a good one, which actually Dan picked out this week. So,
nice job, Dan.
We're looking at Saquon Barkley, who you guys mentioned has not had nearly the same season that he had last year, where he had a historic season. His over/under rushing for this game is 75.5 yards. And the odds on that are -115. So do you guys think that Saquon Barkley will be able to hit 75.5 yards?
I guess I'll go first on this one. I am going to say no. I'm going to actually take the under on this. Saquon Barkley lately has been averaging about 60 yards per game. I mentioned earlier he's at 3.7 yards per carry. 684 is his total. And not to mention, he's been limited with a groin injury. So I am going to, with all of that said, while I respect the man immensely, I'm going under on Saquon.
I should actually, real quick, update this. There's been a move in the line since we looked this up this morning. Barkley's over/under is now 76.5 at -114. So
under. Totally under.
I don't know if that changes your bet at all.
That helps, Grote. I'm going to take the over. That 1 yard might really doom me here when he gets 76 on Friday. But look, like the Bears weren't great against the run against Pittsburgh. Steelers ran up 186 rushing yards. They averaged 5.2 a pop. It only takes one really big run to put yourself on track to go over this total. I think Saquon's in line to get one really big run against this depleted Bears linebacking core. I know he's only averaging 3.7 yards per carry, 62 yards per game this year, but I think he gets on track at home against a depleted Bears defense and goes over that 76.5 number.
You want to take a crack at it, Adam? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take the over. I just for all the reasons Dan just said, I think it's just a tall task without your, as well as the Bears starting linebackers played or backup linebackers played last week. It's just such a tall task against still one of the best running backs, probably might still be the best running back in the league. So I'm going to go the over.
Okay, I'll be the only one that's right. That's cool. The best bet was brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Let's do our picks. Adam's doing double duty. He's doing some updates on our sister station, BBM, right now. That's why he sounds a little bit on the quiet side right now. But do you want to do a real quick pick, Adam, before we let you go and put together an update and blast it over 50,000 watts of news radio WBBM?
So I was really conflicted about this one, but I think the Eagles are going to win the game. I just think the Eagles are the better team still, but it's a lot closer than I would have picked the game to be 2 months ago. So I think it's going to be a good game. I think it'll be really competitive, but I think in the end, the Eagles are just the better team, and I think they come out on top.
Score?
And the score of 28-24.
Gotcha, man. Thank you, Studs. Appreciate you. Dan, you want to take a crack at it next?
Yeah, I'm going to go Eagles 26, Bears 20. I will remind our audience that I've picked the Bears to lose against the Vikings and the Steelers the last 2 weeks and been wrong. So you can throw the tomatoes and anything else you want to throw at me, proverbially, right here. I do think here's two things that I'm going to distinguish between these two teams going into Friday. The Eagles are really, really good at taking care of the football. They only have 6 giveaways the entire season so far through 11 games. Obviously, the Bears calling card has been taking the football away on defense. It's going to be much harder to do against Jalen Hurts in this group. And then the other thing is the Eagles are rock solid inside the red zone. They have the number 1 red zone offense in the NFL. They have the number 4 red zone defense in the NFL. That can swing games, particularly close games like this one. The Bears are up for this test, and believe me, I think that they can stay in this fight all the way till the final bell. But ultimately, I've got Eagles 26, Bears 20.
All right. Yeah, I also am picking the Eagles to win this game. I have them down for a 27-24 win, and even getting a little bit more specific, like talking about the Eagles do not turn the ball over. They turn it over the least. Jalen Hurts, 17 touchdowns to 1 interception. They ain't seen the Bears yet, who of course lead the league in takeaways, so that could even itself out a little bit. But when you don't have that part that you can depend on, that scares me a little bit. And look, none of the numbers that Philadelphia has put up offensively or the defensive numbers are not great. Like the Eagles are 22nd against the pass, 19th against the rush. They are 8th in points allowed, which is pretty good, just allowing teams to score 20 points per game. But it's on the road. The Philadelphia Eagles, for an 8-3 team, are about as desperate as you'll ever hear about an 8-3 team, coming off an embarrassing 21-point loss to the Cowboys. So that has to add a little bit into it. I do like the Eagles beating the Bears 27-24.
That's it. We've got an Eagles sweep here on Take the North. Sorry, folks, but the Bears have been surprising us all year, so maybe they pull it off again and win another close game. 6-1 in the 1-score games for the Bears.
And I will say, like, it again sounds stupid, but since the Bears are in this discovery season, if you will, the Bears play well and they lose. There's still going to be something to be said for that. As Adam said properly, none of us would have looked at this game at the beginning of the season and said anything less than a blowout, quite frankly.
Just imagine last year on Thanksgiving night if I said, a year from now, the Bears are going to be going to Philly trying to get to 9-3. That's all I got to say to you. Discovery season. We've discovered that the Bears have found their way out of the cellar, and they found their way back to the light, and they found their way into a meaningful game that they've earned the opportunity to play. And so let's go see how they're doing it.
And if you woke up from that slumber or that hibernation or whatever reason you were not conscious for what was going on, how wild would it be to hear the promos on Prime Video saying the 2 powerhouses of the NFC in 2025 going at it on Black Friday?
Yeah, and you got to carve out part of your day on Black Friday now. You can't go to Walmart and knock people over trying to get that deal on a TV. You've got to watch the Bears game.
Hey, actually, check this out. I can, because I am doing the Score pregame show that day, and we're going to be at Gurney Hills Mall.
Oh, perfect. Little break in the action is right down and see who you can knock over and get a deal on something.
Yeah, we'll be at the wall in Gurney Mills Mall. I'll be out. That's going to be awesome. I'll be there with Olin Kreutz and James Big Cat Williams doing the pregame, watching the game with those fellas, and then doing the postgame. So I have got my Friday is going to be a blast, Dan.
It sounds like it. And I've got a really early flight Friday morning, cross your fingers that we have no issues on Friday morning to get out there.
Oh, you're doing the day of game travel,
It's a dangerous one. We originally had a late Thursday night flight. That one got banged. It got banged a few months ago. And so the options were either go on Thanksgiving morning or go on Friday morning. We're going to roll the dice and we're going to roll out. Should have plenty of time if the old pilot can get that flight in the air and on the ground on schedule.
You're playing a dangerous game, Mr. Wiederer. You are, but at least you get to hang out with your family on Thanksgiving. Anything else, Weedsy? I feel like we've covered it all, but anything else you want to add before we get out of here?
Believe it or not, no, I have nothing else. This is a jam-packed episode, and I'm glad we were able to pack it with the jam.
Yeah, we packed it with the jam. That is what we do here on the Take the North podcast. For that guy, Dan Wiederer, for our executive producer, Adam Sadzinski, I'm Mark Grote saying thank you for watching and listening to the Take the North podcast.
Great talk. See you out there.